draft the resolution for the municipal contracting.
Yeah.
How many times do you have to do it before it becomes,
Resolution for fund.
just one time? So that's all we get, and no time to,
Yeah.
it's pretty quick, time period to show something and then 5 minutes later vote on it without giving time to, should have done it 2 months ago.
I don't know what their time schedule is, but it was available over the weekend. And there was a memo of understanding so that you're not looking at the whole contract, you're just looking at those areas that are changed.
Well, I mean, the contract doesn't go
Actually, I probably shouldn't even bother.
Right.
Like, it's not gonna, if I try to open attachments on here.
Is there any reason?
No, I don't agree, I just.
No, I'm just saying, common sense to me says, give us some time.
See if we can,
I don't see anything that stands out as a problem, I'm just saying.
I don't want them to have any vacation days.
Whatever you get, they get. You get none, they're out.
That's it.
Everybody went off. Oh, yeah.
How much time? Oh, shit, we don't.
all right. Call the meeting to order. Will the clerk please read the meeting statement?
Adequate notice of this regular meeting was provided to the public and the press on January 17, 2024, and was posted at the municipal building in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-7.
Thank you. You all please join with me in saluting to the flag, stand. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bushieri,
Here.
Councilmember Di Benedetto,
Present?
Councilmember Higgins.
Here.
Councilmember Sparta,
Present.
Council President Rizzuto.
Here. This evening, we have a presentation. Recently, the council passed an ordinance. Is it here?
Oh, okay.
I've got Marcy know, he had a family emergency.
Okay,
And
so-
he does sincerely apologize.
Thank you for letting me know.
And we'll put him on the next one.
Okay, so Planet Networks will go on the next
Cancel.
agenda.
Okay.
Item number 6. I think about a few meetings back, the discussion was entered into concerning some of the signs that were seen about around town that were in effect not in accordance with our existing sign ordinance. We talked about seeing if we could have some of these reviewed or for modification or reaffirmation. And our vice president was willing to undertake that, and perhaps you can...
Oh, I thought this was a discussion with all of us, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't, unfortunately, we were, when we first discussed it, we were going to meet with our Economic Development Committee Chairman, who has been unavailable,
Right.
to get his feedback. So I don't know, Mayor, have you touched base with Mr.
Yeah.
Knight, that you could
So-
maybe...
So I've asked Heidi to come in and just give a little input on.
Okay, perfect.
With the EDAC committee, just to share us with, some.
Okay, is that okay?
Sure. Did you guys all get a copy of the...
Pictures?
Yeah, the pictures?
Not that I'm aware of.
Irene must still have them.
Did Tina, I don't know if Irene was supposed to be.
Roseanne or,
No, I never received
no,
it.
Oh, well.
All right, so
Well,
I handed off to Irene, so I have to look and see if she's,
Okay. Well, in the meantime,
yeah, we could just discuss it, and then I'll
Yeah.
pass that around for you guys to
Okay.
take a look at. Just some ideas, but I'll let
Okay.
Heidi explain it.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Heidi Labrise, representing the Economic Development Advisory Committee to encourage, promote, and assist business growth in Vernon, and I'm happy to be here to present some of our findings and discussions we had to the council. First, an update about Peter Knipe. As many know, he has been in the hospital and rehab back and forth for a couple of months with 2 additional surgeries. I hope we will all say a prayer for his continuing recovery. So in the meantime, the mayor asked me to do this presentation. I hope to bring clarity and a need to address many concerns of the Vernon businesses and township interest in improving the signage situation. Secondly, I'd like to say that signs give a community character. I found that while I was doing research, and I said, boy, is that powerful. Signs give the community a character, and thought it was important to keep in mind. I drove around Vernon a few times with an open mind as a newcomer exploring Vernon and as a driver of a vehicle. There are some signs that need improvement for displaying businesses, of which I'll get into. I saw several small signs stapled to poles for buying houses or promoting professional work like masonry work and tree service, etc., which are scattered in certain areas. They can be an eyesore if more people do the same, which will pop up more and more as the need for work is escalating. Perhaps have a certain place somewhere in town where they can promote their services for locals to find. Newspapers aren't like they used to be, where advertising can benefit people since they become less and less reliable with local news. As for vehicle signs, the no standing, no parking in many areas aren't needed, or just needs adjustments because they're crooked or old. I highly recommend that you drive around, look purposefully at every sign and determine the same findings. I recently read in the Advertiser newspaper, Sussex County has inspected more than 14,000 signs on county roads, where more than 300 signs have been replaced, and about 250 more will be replaced by October, according to Chris Carney, Deputy Director of the Board. For business signs, I found by changing the sign's location can have better visual effects, such as the one sign with multiple businesses that are off 94, and that the one particular that's double-sided on Church Street and 94, which there are a couple of pictures of, and it was updated decades ago by the Boys Club. Nobody seems to own the sign. I've talked to some businesses, and
You guys know which one that is, right? Yeah.
yeah, right by the Dunkin' Donuts
Yeah.
side in front of the floors.
is it this one?
I never
Yeah.
noticed it.
And
Yeah, that one there, yep, I know.
yeah, and some businesses have closed since. The signs are, some businesses that are still there. But when you drive by, coming from 94 from the light, from Burger King, you can see it, but it's just, if you're just going by, it just says, okay, I know there's a few businesses there, but nothing looks definitive. And then when you come from the other direction, going towards Burger King, you don't see the sign at all. And I have a picture of that as well. I parked in the parking lot of Dunkin' Donuts, and it's just facing the tree, and nobody sees it except if you're in the parking lot. So So by placing a better sign across maybe placing the sign across from Church Street at the corner where the church is, the drivers will be able to see from both directions and know there are more businesses on Church Street to explore. This would help the businesses that are not visible from 94. I didn't even know there were shops on Omega Drive, and I've been here 10 years. And the shops around the municipal building area are in need to attract the high volume traffic from 94. And I've discussed this with a few business owners. One shop used to use the feather flags, the flag banners, to help customers find their shop, but he was told to take them down, and he was upset about it because nobody knows that he's there or can't find him, and that whole area has so much potential as well. And as for Omega Drive, a little sign should point drivers to explore the shops that are located there. They need to attract tourists to visit the offerings these shops have. A wayfinding or directional signs are called, could draw more customers to their stores, shops, restaurant on Vernon Crossing Road to 517 with the scenic byway loop turn. The sign ordinance is 12 pages long, and in the committee we just it would take hours to understand, and it's complicated. So a simpler method to understand can be made by stating what signs shouldn't be allowed, and stating the town's objective for the prospective and present business owners by notification. This would lead them to avoid lighted digital displays, neon city lights, flashing, and having gimmicks to promote business. I believe this could be done on a one-page recommendation where Vernon could strive, having that country feel matching the natural beauty of Mother Nature has in our town, which is a great asset which helps tourism, which is another greatest asset. Signs attract, but need to be on what the town wants aesthetically and communicate it to the locals to be on the same agenda. Vernon should be a business friendly, promoting new businesses, and signs are necessary, being we have one large road passing through Vernon with little roads without any indication of other business locations. Tourists use quite a bit of GPS when searching for a specific place, but for those who are just driving by and or exploring potential shopping, dining, etc., those charming signs will attract more business for the owners of the shops. In the past, brochures displayed choices with local advertisers through hotels to promote, but that isn't the case anymore. I don't know why, but that's what it is. And I like them, but I'm old-fashioned. And my personal experience, having been in business over 25 years, drawing customers seemed to be a major concern here in Vernon, as we discovered it in our committee. I understand the local businesses need help from the town, more so than putting hardship restrictions on how to attract customers. So in my opinion, being on both sides, the town needs to communicate to businesses for the common objectives about what type of signs to use. For example, charm, and encourage businesses to do the same. This should be the objective, the motto, the seal of success to move forward. As for flag banners or feather banners, they should be used not to overwhelm the driver with too much information as they drive by, because less is more, and the driver has limited time and eyesight. With the number of large attractions in Vernon, which created a tourist destination, we have to find a way to lead them to shop, dine, and enjoy the welcome experience of their visit, which is to have attractive signs. When I first came to Vernon to one of the attractions from New York decades ago, from one of their advertisements, we couldn't find anything on the main road and headed towards Warwick to find shopping and dining. But we noted Vernon has the beauty of nature. And again, this is the greatest asset when driving through. And I'll finish by saying local farmers are in need to bring business to their location as well. A little guide sign can be helpful to them, to their offerings. I've seen this in Brittany, France, where the roads are small, but they always had little signs with a little arrow to direct a driver for a visit of a special place. So there was a vote on the flags,
yes.
the feather flags.
So I ran a poll just to see about the feather flags. Again, I campaigned on using social media as a tool to help, bring some things to the surface. Obviously, social media doesn't control how we govern, but just to give us some idea where the public may see things. And that poll, again, was the in question of the feather flag. As you know, Vernon Township, it's not permitted, but yet we see them all the time trying to pop up, trying to attract business. And as a former business owner, I understand the struggles. Especially when you put your life savings into a business, you would do anything to try to attract customers. So that poll came at 187 people voted yes, and I think only 20-something said no to, 24 votes said no to feather flags. Again, Facebook and social media doesn't govern us, but it's just a tool, just out there to see that. But I do like some of the signage things that you have here. I think a lot of the stuff looks very good, and I know there's a lot more. I think we may be missing a picture or two.
Yeah.
But it's a good way that maybe because of some of the things and how we want our town to look. I think there's very tasteful ways of doing it that we can put these. Again, we come up with a design that we can do. Where our businesses are located. Can't obviously have it, on every corner, but at least for the majority, we can show some kind of direction in a nice way. But like I said, like the one by Dunkin' Donuts, is kind of.
Yeah, it is.
It is what it is, right? So we'll have to review it, and I think if we come up with some nice signage, I think that's a great way to, again, point the direction for where our businesses are located. And it kind of helps everybody, I guess, right? I do want to just make note that I did speak with our zoning officer, Allison Rock, so she's going to come in October. We'll figure on that date because we wanted to get her input because she is the boots on the ground, right? She's the one who's going to these businesses and given violations. And so I know my experience with talking with business owners, what they want, but it would be nice to hear from our zoning officer as to what her experience is as well. So again, I just we want to get as much feedback as possible, because again, we're trying, we must be business friendly. I mean, we can't afford not to be. But we also have an appearance that we want to have too. So it definitely is a balance that hopefully we can all come to some kind of understanding and agreement. And I thank you for the work that you and the rest of the team put in.
A lot of businesses are hurting.
Yeah.
So they become desperate, and they thought by trying to attract, putting those
Absolutely.
flags up. I mean, if business was thriving, they wouldn't be using those feather banners.
Yep.
So they're just trying to get more customers in. And so the one particular was frustrated because he had to take them down. And they've been there quite a while, apparently. But I just feel for them because it's like, it seems like there's a lot of positivity in Vernon, and especially with the apartments going up, that area has so much potential that somehow, some way, you're still going to have to get people from the drivers in 94 to come make a U-turn or come make a turn here and explore.
Yeah.
Because when we first, like I said, when we first came here, we just went to the attraction and then drove on 94 and looking, and they said, well, they have this, and nothing that made us want to stay. So we continued out of Vernon and we wound up in Warwick. So that's decades ago. And so as a tourist at that time, that I've noted that, but I never thought I'd be living in Vernon. But we did note at that time it's a beautiful town. The mountains, the greenery, so that's our greatest asset. And if we keep in tune, I took the pictures from the internet of signs that are for sale or you can order. And there's one that has like an Appalachian feel to it. I thought that was quite interesting. Unfortunately, I couldn't get to mark which is which.
So I just have a quick question about the sign. So are the businesses impacted willing to work together? You know, if they were able to, if the ordinance allowed for this type of sign, you know, at the corner, like down this road is businesses A, B, and C. Are they, you know, they would, I mean, we're not going to provide signs, that this is their responsibility. So they're willing to pool together to provide this? Because that's really,
Yeah, that's why I think
that's
if...
the question, right?
I think if, being we're going through a transition, and because money's tight for everybody, somehow
These aren't cheap, yeah.
Right, but some of them aren't that expensive either if you can really get creative. And, but maybe working with the town,
Well, the town wouldn't provide signs for businesses though, right? So we would write an, you know, we would approve an ordinance allowing certain sizes, certain locations, certain timeframes, certain types of,
Which is exactly what's been done.
yeah, construction, but we don't provide signs.
I mean, if
Right.
you want to look at some of the signs, you can take a look at some of the signs in town where the developers, the people who own the property, have made the adjustments.
I mean,
I know that's it. I have to find a way.
Let me finish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But before I say, that was a member of the public. This meeting may not be on Zoom. Apparently
It's not on Zoom, it keeps
And
disconnecting.
it keeps disconnecting because of a electronics problem, and we've had the IT individual here almost all day trying to correct the problem, and
Yeah, we're not able to connect.
so that's the reason why. Let me just turn this off.
There's another
But
picture. I'm sorry.
But I think what needs to be done is, you can't expect the town to tell you what signs you may have or may not have, and allow another business to say, well, you know, I was told that I can have this, but, and now another business says that I can't because I was told that I can't. I think one of the things that I'm going to point out, maybe the mayor will agree, maybe it will not. To me, that poll is rather immaterial, because the number of businesses in town, the people involved, could answer positive to that, could float that to the extent where it would be more than the number of people who don't agree with it, simply because it's not within the town code. The town code, I'm glad you picked it up, does show an Appalachian look, and that's what they've tried to look at. But you mentioned the feather flags, and the reason this comes up, because I distinctly remember when we were talking about this, when we were developing the ordinance, that you had strip malls where a number of businesses have, are along a strip area. If you allow one of those businesses to put up, eat my hamburgers, and another one to say, I like my, my deli, or something like that, and you have 5 or 6 businesses in that area, in that connected. The hardware store is a perfect example. That's just had the grand opening. If you were to put signs along the front of the opening of that particular business, my major concern there, and I think maybe some of the other council people would be, there's a problem because you can't get in or out without risking, getting into an accident. And that's, right now, without those flags, you have the hole in between, you have two-way coming traffic, you have some shrubbery that really
Yeah.
needs to be cut
It's a
back.
difficult parking lot.
It's a
That's for sure.
difficult
Yeah.
parking lot, and that's probably not the only one. Coming in on some of the other places in town that have that, the same situation. When you come out of the Acme parking lot, and you look at those signs, they're more standardized. Now, I agree, if you look at some of the, like the post office sign, or maybe the other ones, some are not bigger, some are smaller. I think it's not the township's responsibility to tell the developer that, we're going to give you money to do this. Otherwise, it's just not our business. But I think what the developer can do is standardize those looks, and that's between the developer and the
business owner.
business owner. If he says, how come you gave the post office a big sign and I'm only getting a little sign?
Yeah.
I don't think the township should get involved with it.
No, I agree with you, Council President. And I think, perhaps designating an area for an area that would allow for a multiple sign structure at the end of a street corner. So if that was a possibility, again, who owns the land, right? Is it an obstruction? There's a lot of things that come into play there. But if that was a direction that was important to business owners, and you have several business owners down Church Street, as an example, and we'd like to have a nice, sign in an Appalachian style, drawing attention. And then in our ordinance, we designate, this corner, several corners where that's allowed. And then those business owners need to follow the style guidelines and the ordinance, and as far as visibility and all those things. I don't see a problem, maybe designating certain areas as long as there was land and, we're able to do it.
Right.
But as far as, you can't say, oh, let's just build a sign for these 5 businesses, because then the town is in the business of promoting certain businesses over others, and that's, and spending funds. But designating an opportunity for a business owner then to take charge and work together for that type of, because I see the benefit of these for sure. And they even look cute. You're driving down the road and it's like, oh, look, there's several, and it might cause someone to go down the road and explore, which I think is a great idea. But I think the limit on what the council would do is perhaps designate areas where those signs would possibly be placed, and then the business owners would then go within the framework of the ordinance, size,
But somebody also has
design.
to take ownership of that sign, somebody has to maintain that
Exactly, so they have to
sign.
own
I mean,
it.
it's
Yeah,
like-
those business owners
Yeah.
need to own it. And then if it's in disrepair, they're responsible for the upkeep.
And then you're gonna have one business owner, oh, no, he was supposed to take care of
Yeah.
it, they're pointing fingers at each other. It's-
Well, yeah, so it would be, it would require a level of cooperation between multiple business owners, and then if one goes out of business, then the other, so I see the benefit of it, but it's not an easy process.
As for some of the pictures,
Yeah, here, this is,
that's
this
what
is a sign that was put there, obviously by the business owner,
Right.
to get somebody to turn in.
that's what I wanted to bring up.
And they can easily pick it
This
up and
is-
put it back.
To me, this is an invitation to an accident.
Well, I wanted to bring that up because you have also the hardware store down there.
Mm-hmm.
So again, when tourists go by and there's no sign there, they wouldn't even know there's a brewery.
I know, again, but that
But-
property is owned by somebody else, right? That,
Yeah,
actually, that
but
property is
like-
for sale.
But like in Warwick, they have on a post saying more businesses or more shops.
And that might be done by their Chamber of Commerce. I don't know who
Yeah,
We
manages
may,
that.
we may own, right, we probably own a section of that.
We have an
property with
easement,
corners.
yeah.
Yeah, there's probably an easement,
And
but-
if the town
Yeah,
chooses...
but the easements are in the site triangles. So you can't put something in the site triangle.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's different than being on a
fact-
pole,
the
but that
fact
could have been done by the
remains
Chamber of Commerce.
is
You don't know who
bef-
owns that.
Before we go ahead and try and not reinvent the wheel, but say, we want to add this, we want to add that, we need to be able to say, that we've tried to carry through on is an Appalachian look with skiing and activities, activity-centered places as businesses where people would be willing to promote a business. To put something in where you're going to put these feather signs all along a strip, I see it as a problem, and I don't see that fitting within the scope of what the township has decreed previously. Now, that's not to say these things can't be revisited, and in particular areas, as Ms. Bucieri was mentioning, adjustments can be made. But then we run the risk of, how come so-and-so can do it and I can't? Why is their money, and so forth and so on? You know,
Well, and it could be about visibility. You know, one parking lot might have a clear area where a feather sign could be put, and it doesn't cause visibility issues. And then you have the H&H strip mall that Pat was talking about, where even without any signage, that parking lot is difficult. I have a question, Mayor, and I don't know if maybe the zoning officer will be able to answer that. Are there a lot of denials in sign applications? You know, is there a trend? You know, a lot of businesses are asking for this, and maybe she can speak to that?
see, I don't think that's what's happening.
So maybe I'm asking
I think it's a shoot first and ask questions.
questions later. Yeah, and I'm not saying it's not, but I'm just curious if there is a trend, and if she could, you don't have to answer that now, but I'm just putting it out there, so maybe she could come prepared to talk about that.
Yeah, and I know one of the other questions I think we were talking about was providing some kind of clear documentation for when new businesces.
Yes.
Well,
That was a great example.
Yeah.
I think there was a packet. Don't we have a packet that goes out to new businesses that you guys
I don't think so.
created?
It's
No,
just 12 pages of...
No, not the sign ordinance, but I thought a new business, I remember a presentation about a year and a half ago, from the Economic Development Committee with a packet of information that was supposed to go out to businesses.
This would be a perfect example. Mayor and I were discussing this, we were talking about the agenda, of developing some type of a brochure of FAQs for
It's
people
been done.
coming in and asking.
Yeah, but we want to
been done. There is
simplify,
one.
right, there may be something that's probably long and probably maybe overly detailed, but I think maybe something that we can really just kind of narrow down some of the basics.
Well, if you have something, then we can just pull out the key points from it.
Yeah, and I think so, and I think what
Trim it
I'll
down.
do.
But there was one created.
Is maybe task our business coordinator, Mindy, with that task to maybe put down some kind of
Yep, but
packet
other,
that we could,
right.
yeah.
But please understand that in most of these signs, in most of these towns, a good number of the sheets that are used in the ordinances are for definition.
Yeah,
So that we
there's a
know
lot
what
of
we're talking
definitions.
about. You know. And then as far as where they are or where they shouldn't be, that's a different story. But, in terms of but like, for example, one of the questions that I brought up, the opening of the hardware store. I understand people have a great deal of, money invested, and certainly it's nice to see Ace Hardware come into the community. It's a well-known brand. It's a trusted brand. But when you look at that, to me, it kind of overpowered everything. And the other members of that strip who are in business, some private owners, some, had some, actually, that's really the only one I can think of that has any type of corporate identification. They begin to wonder, why can't I do it? And when you see that balloon, when you see the banners, when you see the feather flags, all of those things for a grand opening, and some of these people are looking at 90 days. Well, it's kind of is more than you really should have or would want to have. But I could also understand that 30 days is, or a weekend is not really long enough, because I want to have people know that we've made this change, or this is my business. So I think there's a way of identifying these types of questions and coming to some type of a compromise on it that becomes part of our ordinance. Maybe it's, instead of 30 days, let it be 60 days. That way you'll have, because I think most people realize that you're looking at weekends. And with 30 days, you get 4. With 60 days, you get, 8. So that might be a little bit better than what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Heidi, did you say that there's no, pamphlet of what businesses are in town at the local hotels?
Brochure?
There's nothing?
A brochure
Yeah, of local businesses at the hotels.
The one gentleman, I think his name is Devin, from the
Mountain Creek, I don't,
Oh, Evan? Yeah.
I know that's not about signs, but I mean, it would help alleviate
They
the sign
say
issue.
GPS. People use GPS nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know, but it'd be nice if there was.
But I know when I go to hotels, I always look for those brochure
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
to see what,
Yeah, what's around.
Yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't have to do with signs, but it would alleviate this.
But I think with,
Somewhat.
our we didn't really come to a complete conclusion, but what we did talk about is,
Upgrading, especially the one on Church and 94, and being that it's been there for decades.
so if maybe the Chamber of Commerce can
Contact the business
and say, come up with a way
to improve it
and work with the town
together,
and say, okay, well, maybe across the street might be better
double-sided.
and attractive. Or even, there's posts. The walks.
Yeah,
it's a
well, I
post.
mean, if we need to adjust an ordinance, but again,
And just
they would.
put those, like they do in Warwick. They have several shops.
or at least maybe just in town center, we come up with a design and then
Design,
figure
yeah.
out how we can,
And then the businesses that would need to,
Consistency.
maintenance,
Yeah.
Having
purchasing it, that is,
consistency.
the
Yep.
town is not financially responsible. And then there's a process if a business was out of,
taking-
close a shop, how is that handled? Because you don't, so there, that, we need to think a little further down the road, right? We need to think about different scenarios that could happen with those businesses. I think it's a good idea but it's really on them to work together and to get that to happen. And then if it's a safe place, the land is available to place the sign, then I think, it's government's job to make it, to make an opportunity for a business to succeed. And then we could, adjust an ordinance and allow that, but the businesses need to
I think it's kind of
spearhead
like, I think it's kind of
that.
like...
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's really, and because if we could spend time and we could have our attorney draft something, and then the businesses never get together and do it, right?
It's almost
So
like the
I don't want to
hometown.
do that
Yeah.
either and waste, I don't want to say waste time, I don't want to sound rude, but spend resources and time on our end if those 5 businesses on that sign say, well, no, what's it going to cost? I don't have $1,000, and I'm just throwing numbers out there. So if that's truly a desire from businesses in our town, and I think those signs are a good idea, and they can come up with a plan to work together and have a design idea, then we can use our resources here, township really resources, tax dollars, and say, okay, ask our attorney to draft something, make changes,
Right.
and then go forward.
Well, I think it's like, kind of like the Hometown Heroes project, right? So, what we provide, we hang the poles, right? But
But
someone
community members
purchases-
are purchasing the
Correct,
banners.
yeah, and this is
Exactly.
the same thing, like, we can purchase, say, like, we come up with a design, we set the pole, and then businesses will have to provide, those
Placards,
plaques.
yeah,
And
exactly.
we'll have that directed to our website where they'll have to order it, and, there's only so many businesses, so if you got, John Doe's, pizza shop, John Doe leaves and, Mario's comes in there, obviously.
Well, and then you have to have in the
they'll
ordinance that
swap
they're
it out.
required to join that sign, because then you can't have
Yeah.
blanks, right? You only got one person, because if you have
Yeah.
businesses change over and only one guy's on there.
Some of those signs, especially the Appalachian one, it looks like it's done by rope.
Yeah.
So,
I just don't know if
To
that's big enough for
replacement.
people driving by, It would have to be, because
Yeah,
like,
and
you see the
unfortunately, you
garage
put things
signs,
too
you're
big.
like, what?
And unfortunately, when it's too big, then it's a danger.
Exactly.
Yeah, so there's a balance.
yeah.
But I appreciate that idea, Heidi. I think it's,
Yeah.
an interesting idea.
Yeah.
And if there's enough interest in, the businesses are interested in it, then I think it's
but
something.
unfortunately, it's a church in 94 because it's so old. It's like the billboards. They've been there before all this. Now, if
Billboards are privately owned.
yeah, but
Yeah.
aren't they on the roads of the county as well?
They're
the
on
property?
private property. Those
Yeah.
billboards are on private property.
They seem so close to the road. So what was
Yeah.
done way back then, anything went.
Yeah.
So this is what happened with Church Street in
Yeah.
90, anything went. So now to correct it, that's where we need everybody's attention.
We have a lot of development coming in, right? So we have the
yeah.
55-unit building, and I know they want to build some other buildings too. So I think there's going to be a lot of
opportunity for
foot
the developer
traffic.
to help us
So
out.
this will help in that too. So we can
Yeah.
plan ahead for
Working
that.
with the chamber, maybe beautification committee,
And
or,
and the developer
and
and
of
the
course not for
businesses.
free, but at least help, because some of the cost wasn't that bad. But even as simple as just putting it on the pole where it says walk, don't walk, just saying more shops this way like Warwick does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I
what
like
they did. They just said, this way for more shops, which is okay, let's go check it out. So
All right.
that's about it. But
Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank
Thank
we're
you.
moving along.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you
And
for
I
your
feel
time.
everybody's energy in town because everybody's excited, and with new business coming in, hopefully, because there's a lot of empty buildings around this area. And I think with signs, that's going to even be more positive for them to rent the space. So, because that would be a concern for me, is like, how do you get them to come?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
You're
Heidi.
welcome.
Thanks.
Any other comments? Questions? If you'll notice that you've spent any time looking at the existing ordinance, there are some areas that do have some questionable ways of, I guess, of interpreting them. One of them, of course, the mayor brought to our attention is the roof signs. Whether or not there was an existing way of supporting a sign previous to being taken over, where the name may have to be changed. We've talked about the grand opening. And and these feather signs, provided if there's a move to allow them in certain areas, I think this becomes more of not so much of a council situation, but an appeal to the council from the businessmen. from people who want to come, and they want to, they need to know that there's a way of having their concerns addressed. And I think perhaps the first person, or the first place they should go, rather than to the council, should be to the zoning, the land use board. Because these are the places that enforce the existing township ordinances and resolutions. And if in fact these ordinance and resolutions seem to be being challenged or questioned, then maybe there is an opportunity or a place where, a time where, there might be a case where they should be revised, or a case for revision, or a case for addition or modification. But I think that needs to come from the land use board, because that's where I believe they're bound, it was bound for, because that's who we handled this for when the existing ordinance was developed. Just to bring it to the council, we're not familiar individually, or I don't think as a body, with, unless we know what's going on by virtue of just traveling around, but we don't see every area in town, and we don't see what's going on in other towns in comparison in terms of changes in advertising and what is being shown. I think it's their opportunity to work with the appropriate bodies and the either the developers or the landowners, and come up with something like this. Moving on. Mayor's comments?
I don't have much to add since last week. I just want to put into the record 2 applicants for the Historical Preservation Commission. That's Liam Clancy and William Rickey.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Sorry.
I didn't hear you.
I want to add, submit 2 applicants to the Historical Preservation Commission, and that's Liam Clancy and William Rickey, Jr. They'll be joining the Historical Preservation Commission. So, and that's all my comments.
Thank you. May I have a motion to open the floor for public comments?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Mrs. Bucieri. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. Sparta. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Please note that this portion of the meeting is donated to comments on agenda items only, and is limited to 3 minutes per person. Anybody who wishes to come forward and make any comments on any item on the agenda, please do so. Seeing no one coming forward, may I have a motion to close the floor to the public?
Moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Sparta, seconded by Mrs. Bucieri. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Opposed? Motion carries. All members have received copies of the bills list. If you'd like to mention if there's any comments or questions on any of these.
I had a question on 62533. It's not about the money, just a procedural. There's a payment of $11,250 to the Vernon Police Athletic League. Who runs recreation in our town? The PAL or the Recreation Committee?
The PAL is different from the Recreation Committee.
Right.
So the Recreation runs, all the parks, recreation, all our activities, but the PAL is separate from that.
Right. Who runs
They
it?
have their own events and activities that they do down there.
So if a youngster wanted to play soccer and another wanted to play baseball, that's under the PAL, or it could be under the rec? Or
It can
how's
be
it
under
work?
either.
Could be either one?
Because the PAL has their own teams. The PAL could host a team, but then also you have your baseball teams, your football teams, all of that goes through the community.
So if a Little League reports to the rec committee, or they report to PAL?
The rec.
Rec
It would be
committee.
rec. But on the other end, the PAL also can have their own team. So they would, if they have their own, like, they're sponsoring, put it that way. If they're sponsoring their own team,
Right.
they would do, they would be sponsoring the team through the actual recreation.
Well, like some sports are just PAL, like PAL basketball. was
Right.
always-
Yeah,
like, do they
So
do
PAL
that,
has
that
their
is
own league.
different,
Right.
right?
Yeah, they still do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they will have Council Bucieri is saying they will have they'll host their own basketball leagues. So they would have teams from other townships going in that would go through the PAL.
So a traveling team would be a PAL as opposed to an in-town team?
Right.
Which could be either one?
Right.
I don't even know.
I don't think traveling is, I don't think, when my kids did basketball, the PAL, it was not travel, it was all, maybe they do it differently now, it's been a while. But I think traveling, doesn't the Vernon Little League and stuff have their own boards?
They do,
They,
yes.
yeah.
And their own fundraising and their own fees, so it's
Yes.
not like anybody on
No,
on
I
our
think-
staff is managing that,
No,
though,
we
you
just,
know what I mean?
right, we just, they just register through our rec department, I think
And
that's-
we manage the field
Right.
usage?
Yeah, we manage,
Manage it,
exactly,
okay.
and the time, the
The
scheduling and all that
scheduling and the
stuff.
calendar,
Yeah.
like Michelle manages the calendar?
Yes.
Okay.
So she makes sure that one team isn't there when another team should be there. So she organizes that so we don't have an influx of teams that are just showing up and then they have no field. She organizes all that.
Yeah, I think there's some confusion. For example, Brad just mentioned something we just stepped by. The PAL does run the travel basketball program. That's their gym, their program, and they run it. And when he passed by, he said, no, it's not that way. I think it is. So I think there is confusion. I used to be on the Little League board years and years ago, and we reported to the rec board. The rec board had control over us for monies, but they didn't have control over us for functionality and making decisions, what team or what we're doing or what leagues we're in or who we're playing with, the Williamsport group or anything like that. It was just the money.
You
If
paid
there
for
was
the
money-
field usage, is that what you did, Bill? You paid to use the fields? Like,
Yeah.
did you, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so we had to apply for the use of the fields
Gotcha,
as a
okay.
group, so.
But a perfect example, though, would be soccer, recreation soccer. That's sponsored by the township, the recreation league. And then you have the travel team, and I think they even have an older group for soccer, but then you have the travel team that kind of feeds from those athletes that want to.
Yeah, I think it's.
So what you're saying is the travel
Because in
team
town is-
has a breakout with a separate group of people?
Thank you, yes.
And
Yeah.
they report to somebody somewhere,
I
because
think
there
the
has to be.
in-town, I think the
has to be
in-town
money.
team goes through PAL for soccer, or used to, and then the travel team was separate for soccer.
Can we just clarify that for a future meeting and find out what the process and procedure is? Some parents are confused. I know how it used to be when I was involved. It's changed a lot. And, there's travel teams, there's in-town teams, there's use of fields, there's money, there's budgets. And, even some parents are saying this could be better organized. Some of them have volunteered to coach, some haven't. Some of them don't know who to even contact. So it's a little confusion.
Like I said, the PALs, they're kind of like their own entity, right? So, but again, and then we have leagues, right, that I don't think is controlled by any one person in Vernon Township. I think they have their own leagues that manage that. We just manage the scheduling of the fields and maintenance of the fields. So, I'm not a sports guy, so, Brad, I don't know if you are you more?
My kids they've changed so much since my kids have been through, I can't even really comment
Gotcha.
on it, because it's kind of all over the map. I can understand the confusion that some of the parents have, because the travel leagues are different from the rec leagues, and
Yeah.
PAL has some travel leagues, I guess, but, not all of them, and it's really kind of, then you have the club teams on top of it, it's just all over the map.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was younger, it was all
It
done.
was easy,
It was all
but
done through VTRYC.
It's
back
difficult
then.
now, yeah, I
Well-
couldn't answer the questions. And
Well,
everything.
you know what, I'll have our rec director kind of give us an overview of how.
We need an org
It's
chart.
kind of a chart.
An org
yeah.
chart would be good, yeah.
Yeah.
An org chart would be
An org
good.
chart would be
Shows
nice.
who's doing where to go.
Map it out.
All right. Is there anything?
That was my only question.
I'm sorry. Any other questions?
No.
All members have been given a copy of the minutes of our executive session on September 9th. May I have a motion to place those minutes on the floor to be approved? Moved. Moved, I'm sorry, by Mr. Higgins? Oh, by Mrs. Di Benedetto, I'm sorry. And is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Sparta. Any additions? Changes?
No.
Nope.
No?
All right. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Dictionary.
Yes.
Councilmember Di Benedetto.
Yes.
Councilmember Higgins.
Yes.
Councilmember Sparta.
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving to our consent agenda. Please notify me if you'd like to have any of these particular resolutions separated, and we can vote on them separately. Resolution 24-244, authorizing contracts with Fovionics Document Solutions through Educational Schools Commission of New Jersey, cooperative contract number 65MCESCCPS. Resolution 24-245, authorizing change order number 1 of contract for proposed improvements of various roads within the Vernon Township, with the Vernon Township Road Safety Systems, LLC. Resolution 24-246, a resolution of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, authorizing contract through Bergen County Cooperative Pricing System, number 206 BCPS, for Stryker Medical, number 438-22, bid number 22-14. Resolution of 24-247, authorizing change order number 1, contract for proposed improvements of various roads within Vernon Township with Riverview Paving Incorporated. Resolution 24-248, refund overpayment due to state tax court judgment, parentheses 515 Vernon Property LLC, and parentheses block 413 lot 10 and parentheses. Resolution 24-249, resolution authorizing leasing of certain vehicles for the Department of the Police through Sourcewell National Cooperative, number 060618-EFM through Enterprise Fleet Management Systems Incorporated. Make that Fleet Management Services Incorporated. Quote number 8290694, 1 Diamond Black unit. Resolution 24-2450, authorizing change order number 1 of contract for proposed improvements of Maple Grange lower parking lot with Riverview Paving Incorporated. Resolution 24-251, resolution authorizing agreement with Claims Compensations Bureau to pursue class action funds for EMV chip fees Discover card fees, and other potential interchange fees. Resolution 24-252, a resolution authorizing award of contract to vendor with National Cooperative Contracts, HGA CBUY. Resolution 24-253, approving active volunteer firefighter for membership in the New Jersey State Firemen's Association, Emmerich, in parentheses. Resolution 24-254, resolution authorizing the appointment of Thomas Van Leuven as provisional fire official for the Township of Vernon. Resolution 24-255, authorizing the collective bargaining agreement with American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees and Vernon Township. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Mrs. Bucieri. Is there a second?
Second?
Seconded by Mrs. Di Benedetto. Any questions or comments?
On 24255, it's a very important subject. It doesn't take effect for 3 more months. Want to make sure our employees are treated fairly. Want to make sure the town's treated fairly. And I had 20 minutes just to hear the presentation, and I think it's an important enough subject. Even on the surface, it appears to be fine, and I'd just like to move that particular resolution be moved to the next meeting so we have 2 weeks just to look into any details. I don't see any problem with it. I'm just saying that it's that important. So that's my recommendation.
Is there a reason why this needs to be approved this evening? Other than the fine gentlemen who are here see that it is.
And lady.
And ladies. I'm sorry, I missed that. I move we table it for consideration at our next regularly scheduled meeting.
We vote if something gets tabled.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Is there a motion, can we vote on the table?
Did somebody make a motion to table it?
I haven't heard
Yeah.
one
I
yet.
haven't heard of
Well, that's what I moved. I moved to table it.
Okay, so
Okay.
Okay, so there's a motion, is there a second?
you don't need a second.
Yeah,
on
we
the
need a
motion.
second on the table.
Oh, no,
My
on the
apologies,
table.
okay.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Bushieri?
Are we voting to table this?
Yes.
So yes, the motion to table.
No.
Councilmember Di Benedetto?
No.
Councilmember Higgins?
Yes.
Councilmember Sparta?
No.
Council President Rizzuto?
No.
Motion does not carry.
Common sense says it's an important thing.
Do you want to have that resolution pulled out, Bill, so we vote on it separately?
Yes.
We've already passed it.
No.
No, we
passed
were
it.
just
I'm
voting
sorry,
on the
the
table.
table.
We were
I'm
voting on the
sorry.
table.
I'm sorry, yes.
So, we'll
So
just
you need a motion to approve
Table
the
to-
consent agenda.
Right, right.
minus,
24-255.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda minus resolution 24-255.
Motion is made by Mrs. Bucieri. Is there a second?
Second?
Seconded by Mr. Higgins. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bushieri?
Yes.
Councilmember Di Benedetto?
Yes.
Councilmember Higgins?
Yes.
Councilmember Sparta?
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto?
Yes.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to pass resolutions?
We have a motion for the consent agenda. Councilmember Bushieri made it,
Okay,
and
Are we,
Councilmember
We just,
Di Benedetto.
okay.
there's just to be separate on 24-255.
yeah,
All
so
right.
now we're going to vote on 24-255, right?
All right.
Someone's
We
making a
didn't
motion.
vote on the consent agenda. We have
That's what I'm
a
asking for
motion
now.
and a second.
Oh, okay, so we were voting to remove.
May I have a roll call, please?
And And
So it's included in, right? Because
Yes.
it didn't pass.
No, it isn't.
It's
It's
not.
not.
It's
Now we're
separated.
voting on the consent, I'm sorry, I will.
This is the consent agenda minus that resolution.
Right.
That was
Okay.
pulled out.
Councilmember Boucher?
Yes.
Councilmember Di Benedetto?
Yes.
Councilmember Higgins?
Yes.
Councilmember Sparta?
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And now we have a resolution.
Yes, and now it's the one that
Go
was...
on, now we vote on
Yeah,
24-255.
I'll make that motion.
Motion is made to place 24-255 on the floor by Mrs. Bucieri. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sparta. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Boucher?
Yes.
Councilmember Di Benedetto?
Yes.
Councilmember Higgins?
Abstain.
Councilmember Sparta?
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto?
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Introduction of ordinance, an ordinance of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 275 of the Township Code to repeal Chapter 275 and replace same, to adopt flood hazard maps, to designate a floodplain administrator, and providing for severability and an effective date. May I have a motion to introduce this?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Sparta. Is there a
Second.
second? Seconded by Mrs. Bucieri. All in favor? I'm sorry, roll call.
Councilmember Boucher?
Yes.
Councilmember Di Benedetto?
Yes.
Councilmember Higgins?
Yes.
Councilmember Sparta?
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Adoption of an ordinance. This is the second reading, ordinance 24-18, an ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, amending certain portions of the Chapter 250 entitled Fees and Escrows and Chapter 330 entitled Fees of the Township Code. May I have a motion to open the floor for a public hearing on 24-18?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Higgins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bucieri. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Floor is open to the public for discussion of ordinance 24-18, and only 24-18. Public may come forward, and if you have any comments or questions. Seeing no one coming forward, may I have a motion to close the floor to the public?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Mrs. Bucieri. Is there a second?
Second?
Seconded by Mr. Higgins. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. May I have a motion to adopt ordinance 24-18?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Sparta. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Bucieri. Any questions or comments on this?
Questions, I think at the last meeting, there were some questions as to more detail as to where these numbers came from, why they were up in some cases, down in others. Was it a money grab, as one person in the public stated? Just interested to see if there's any more information on these numbers that were crossed out and new numbers put in. Where did it all come from?
Well, I think we provided that for you.
Can you speak in the microphone, please?
I think, didn't we, you sent that request, I think I provided you with the answers to that, on where, especially some of the construction fees came from. We looked at other townships. We haven't had a fee ordinance or fee increase in several years, and we were trying to bring our building department so it's basically, self-funded. So, well, not self-funded, but at least, pay for itself. And I think we were shy $5,000 to $8,000. So we adjusted it. We didn't adjust it to, where all the other townships are. I think I presented those numbers as to where they were, and then we came down off of that a little bit. Because again, it was just enough, we're not trying to make money, we're just trying to, keep things, so this way kind of pays for itself in a way. The building department pays for itself. So that was the move for an increase in certain fees. Again, it's been several years since anything has been done, and with the cost of everything else that goes into it, we had to make some of those slight adjustments. I would call them slight adjustments. But that was it. I wouldn't call this a money grab, because it was just again a slight increase in certain things.
The plenary, has there been no feedback about that? Because that seems pretty significant.
What is it?
The plenary retail distribution?
Preliminary retail, those are liquor licenses.
Yeah, it went up a lot.
Well, they haven't been adjusted since I've been here.
Mhm.
We can only raise the liquor license fees 20% a year, up to $2,500. We can't go any higher than that.
Okay,
So that's what I did.
Okay.
20% a year, up to $2,500.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
No, just for edification, Mr. Mayor, you did give me those answers on a personal basis. The reason I asked publicly, I wanted to have everybody else hear
Yep.
what the rationale was.
No problem.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bushieri?
Yes.
Councilmember Di Benedetto?
Yes.
Councilmember Higgins?
Yes.
Councilmember Sparta?
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto?
Yes.
Motion carries.
An ordinance 2419, ordinance amending the Vernon Township Municipal Code, Chapter 428, peddling and soliciting. May I have a motion to open the floor to the public on this ordinance?
Moved?
It's moved by Mrs. Di Benedetto. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Bucieri. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. If anybody wishes to comment on this, please come forward. Seeing no one coming forward, I will ask to close the floor to the public on this. May I have a motion, please?
Moved?
Moved by Mrs. Di Benedetto. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Higgins. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The floor is closed to the public. May I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2419?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Higgins.
Second?
Seconded by Mrs. Di Benedetto. Any comments on this? Questions?
I do believe, Marcy, I voted no. It says yes here.
Oh. I'm sorry. I have it in the minutes. No, I didn't. Oh, on this? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I will change that.
Thank you.
All right. That being the only comment, may I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Bushieri?
Yes.
Councilmember Di Benedetto?
Yes.
Councilmember Higgins?
Yes.
Councilmember Sparta?
No.
Council President Rizzuto?
Yes.
Motion carries.
This time, I'll ask for a motion to open the floor to the public for comment on any topic. Time is limited to 5 minutes. May I have a motion, please?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Sparta. Is there a second?
Second?
Seconded by Mrs. Di Benedetto. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Floor is open to the public on any comment or any issue.
Good evening, Council. James Raperto, President, Aspen 3181. On behalf of the members of 3181, I'd like to appreciate and thank you for voting in confidence. We'd also like to appreciate Ms. Bright, our management team, for working through with the contract. This is the first contract in many years. It's been extremely smooth. Everything was good. We didn't have to go to mediation. Everything went exactly as we wanted. There was compromise on both parts, and we were able to come up with a good contract. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to address the council?
Scott Castle from Glenwood. I've been away, so I was just watching the last couple of meetings, so a couple of the topics I have are slightly older, but if you could bear with me. The first one was on that pump track monument topic that seemed to pretty much consume a couple of the meetings. First I wanted to thank Ms. DiBenedetto for stating how reprehensible the conduct was. The people were shouting when the woman that I think was giving a kind of a firsthand account of what went on was trying to give her comments. And I think that was kind of, it was big on her part to be able to do that. And I think, that can't happen in our meetings. You've got to be able to talk and not have people shout over you. So I also want to thank you, Mr. Rizzuto, for letting her finish her statement when people were shouting, her 5 minutes were up and all of that. So I think it's big to make sure that we allow people the time they need to say their piece, and, not everybody's going to agree on everything. I wanted to commend the mayor as well for taking the high road on that subject. I looked into it more because people were asking me to sign a petition outside the liquor store and everything, and there's a lot more out there than what's being stated in public if you look into it. So, they've slammed the mayor with some, to me, pretty slanderous statements, and he hasn't slumped down to their level and done it. And I could say if I was the mayor, I would have slumped down to their level, so which is why he's a good person to be the mayor as opposed to me. I fully support the friends and the fellow bikers coming up, giving their statements. But unfortunately, we still have that small group that was showing up here that they just will not like anything that the mayor does. So they make these little coordinated efforts to try and make it seem like the whole town is outraged. But it's the same people, kind of saying the same thing. And I think if all the facts were put out there and it was, a question on the ballot or something, I think we know how that vote would go. And I know there was one person, it's just kind of weird, there was one person up here, pounding the table saying that this was cancel culture or something, which is actually what they were trying to do by shouting down the poor woman that was trying to get her statement out. So that was it on that topic. Sorry to bring it up, but it just bothered me watching those couple of meetings. The next is kind of a criticism of the same mayor. I don't want him to get too happy. He was smiling and everything, so I want to bring it back down. But actually, I'm really happy with the job the mayor's done on everything except for the annual assessment that's up there, because I think that you ran on the statement of getting rid of it. So you cannot then come back and say, I looked at it further, and it's actually cheaper if we keep the annual than we go to the 5-year or 10-year or whatever. Really, the time to do that due diligence before you make that stand was before you run. After you do that and people elect you on it, you basically have to do that. I understand the annual assessments are better probably for the CFO and bringing money in, because it brings money in a lot faster. But I really can't stand the argument that, you people will be happy though if the housing prices drop, because then your taxes are going to drop really quick if we get the annual assessments as opposed to if we wait for 5 years. But I think we all know that if the annual or if the housing prices dropped and the tax dollars dropped down, in a couple of weeks, we'd be getting a presentation from the CFO saying we've got a big shortage and we have to raise the tax rate or something. So the money's not going to just go away. So, just to be clear, I'm really happy with what the mayor did. I just think you have to stick with the stance that you took, and that's what you got voted in on. And then lastly, totally different subject, but kind of gets to the signage that was being discussed before. I wanted to commend the town. I guess it's the recreation that takes care of Maple Grange Park. My wife and I go there quite often, and it's always maintained well. It looks nice, and that's great, obviously, for the kids in the town because they get to play and do sports there and everything. But a lot of people come from other towns, see that, and it looks really nice, and it's kept up well. We've been there the last 2 weeks. We saw Sparta and Rockaway playing football there. All the parents are there. It's a lot of people. I'm out.
Yeah, sorry.
Anyway, I think it's just great, and the last thing I'll just say is they had asked us, like, is there any place to eat around here? So it would be great if we had some signs to tell people, these are where restaurants are or anything. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ann Larson from Glenwood. Since the gentleman brought up the annual tax revals, I am very personally opposed to that, and I just want to make sure we remind people that probably the long-term goal of that is to implement the unrealized tax gains. So once we have a benchmark annually what the houses are worth, that would make it very easy to facilitate unrealized tax gains on the profits from our homes. So that's only one reason, one little arrow that I'd like to throw out there, but it's an important one considering where we are in the election cycle. So just a couple other things. I was going to ask again if we could consider bringing back the Zoom comments for the public. I mean, just last week, the Board of Ed decided they were going to take it upon themselves to follow Q. It's not a good look for a town to have people saying that they can't be heard at a meeting. There are lots of reasons why people can't attend. I get it. I was there when my kids were younger. I understand it. There's elderly people. There are a lot of excuses. But we should have that available for our taxpayers. That said, what I wanted to actually get to talk about was the what I think appears to be a heavy-handed approach to the sign ordinance. I think we have to tread lightly. At the moment, we had the banks combine themselves, so now we've got an empty bank on Church Street. We've got the hot dog guy posted on Facebook the other day. He needs to close suddenly. We lost the electrical store. We have a new sale, which is good, at $1,025,000 across from the Acme, but that's a big mortgage to pay every month. So they're going to need to do business, and I feel like anything we do could just, cause people to go off the edge. I mean, Ms. Pachira, you mentioned several times about how if we had a larger sign out front that, when the business is closed, and you said several times when one leaves, when one closes, you know what, we're planning on them failing. That's the wrong message. When we say that when they leave, they take the sign down, the next person buys the sign, that means we are not intending for these people to be here long term. And they've invested, in many cases, their entire life savings. They don't get bereavement time off. They don't get, sick time. They don't get time for paternity leave. They're there working every day. Otherwise, they live and die, and the business dies. And here we are, well, I don't like this sign, and I don't like that sign. And we got to stop that before we run them out of town. It's just not a good look for a town that is not overly populated. Everybody keeps saying, oh, we should have a Panera, we should have a this, we should have a that.
No.
All those people have been here, and they do traffic studies, and we don't have the traffic to support it. We need to recognize that, and at least embrace the people that we do have coming here. It's just, it's a cycle. We want to treat ourselves as though we're Short Hills. We're not Short Hills. And they're not going to make the kind of money you make in Short Hills. And it's just the wrong look to start breathing down the necks of a small business. We don't like your signs. So I think that we should think really long and hard before we do anything further to these people. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Is there anyone else wishing to come forward?
Hi, I'm Tom Troncone. I own Alias Brewworks. I just want to talk about the food truck ordinance, if I could. First, I want to thank the council for addressing what's a really important thing for our business. To serve food to people who come drink alcohol. There's a lot of different reasons. I won't go into them all now. The process that we came up with the town on a temporary basis was that food trucks approved by the health department, by the Sussex County Health Department, then they get a food handling permit from the town and get a fire permit. And then they come out, and then the Sussex County Health Department comes and inspects them. The fire department, the fire officer comes in, inspects them as well, and it seems to be working. Reading through the ordinance, there's one thing I just wanted to kind of see if we can work on or carve out or whatever it may be. There's provision in here about fingerprinting and photographing everybody who has a food truck. I'm not entirely sure how it would work, because a lot of them are like, corporations. Like, how do you do it to like Cousin's Maine Lobster or something like that, right? But I think we're conflating two things: the peddler's license, which is basically I go around door to door, or I go around with an ice cream truck through the town, in all residential neighborhoods, as opposed to a truck that comes to my private property of a business, non-adjacent to public street or not on a right of way, and they set up and serve food for the day. I don't know of any municipality that allows food trucks, that requires all the people who operate the food trucks on private property to be fingerprinted and photographed and have background checks done. I would just ask you maybe reconsider that one aspect of it, because it's probably going to be hard to get a lot of food trucks. We're pretty far away from where a lot of them are set up anyway, because a lot of them are Union County, Middlesex County, because they like to be centrally located in the state. So getting them to come up here has been a little bit of a challenge anyway. And now tell them that they're going to have to go through like a criminal background check. Maybe there's an affidavit or something with the application that says we're not criminals, or I'm not entirely sure. I just wanted to flag that one part. There's another part of the language that talks about being inspected by the Sussex County Health Department before you can get the permits from town. It doesn't work like that. Sussex County doesn't come out until they're already there. So you couldn't get inspected by Sussex County and then come get the permits, because you have to get it, and then Sussex County stops out the same way the fire prevention stops out when you're set up. And a lot of times Sussex County doesn't come out because their people are there on the weekends, and they've told me that they have trouble getting folks to come out to do the inspections on the weekends. So they kind of pick it up as they can. We've had people come out a few times before the Sussex County Health Department even makes their way out. So yeah, I would just, I would ask that there would be 3 different permits that they would need now. And I would just ask, maybe we think about the 2 permits that they get now, which is food handling, well, 3 now, which is Sussex County Health Department, food handling, and fire prevention. Adding another one on top of that, the activities permit, or I'm not entirely sure what it was. I was asked if we kind of rethink that part of it. Again, thank you. I'm available to anyone if they have any questions about how it works on a day-to-day basis, but I'll just tell you that days we have the food trucks, our business is up like 30-40% from when we don't. So it's kind of important to us, and I appreciate you all working on it.
That's great.
The issue regarding the food truck ordinance is in the hands of the attorney right now. As far as whether or not there's a fingerprint requirement, that will come from the attorney's recommendations, not from us. I really don't know how that emanates, where it begins. And as far as, having the county first or the township first, again, that protocol is developed between the township and the county. I know nothing about it. I don't know if the council does individually or in total, but whatever they set up, then of course we'll see that it's memorialized.
I would just ask that we treat it separately from a peddler's license, so I feel like they're 2 entirely different things.
Yeah.
Council President, do you mind if I...
No, not at all.
Right now, you are getting a peddler's license because we don't have a food truck license. And this is this is how, I don't know if it was zoning or decided to give a peddler's license for the food trucks. So that is where the requirement comes in for the fingerprints, because that's in our peddler's license, because a peddler right
Is
now,
going door
in
to
our
door,
ordinance,
yeah.
is somebody who does go around the town. So in the food truck ordinance, I don't know if that will be a requirement, but that's why right now your food trucks are required to do that.
But they're actually not,
Okay,
because they give us special temporary zoning approval.
okay. So I don't
So
have
they don't
anything
actually
to
have to
do
get the
with
peddler's
that.
license.
Yeah, I can, if I could just, well, yeah, as the council president said, I'm filling in tonight for Matt Mensch, who's the township attorney, but I know he was working on this, so I will take your comments under advisement with Matt and make sure that we, I think if that was in there, I think Marcy made the point that it was under the peddling license. So, yeah, we'll take these under advisement and present,
Just the last
we just
thing.
have to make sure we're following the county and state guidelines on it too. Yeah.
Just the last thing, the peddler's license, for people going door to door, ice cream trucks, whatever. To get that, if you automatically get it if you're a veteran or exempt firefighter. And I noticed in the ordinance we talk about they're exempt from the new permit that was created. So I think we're kind of conflating two
You're
things.
almost out of time.
Yeah, okay.
You're absolutely
Sorry.
right.
Okay.
I think the issue there was you needed a license. We didn't have it, so we gave one closest to you.
No, I appreciate that. I'm just saying, moving forward, when we do the ordinance, it'd be awesome if they don't have to, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to come forward? No?
Council President, can I just I just want to make two short comments real quick, if you don't mind? I think there's some wrong perception on what it is we're trying to do with the sign ordinance. And, we hear this heavy-handed, but we're raising this concern because we're trying to make the sign ordinance work for our businesses, and we're not trying to put more restrictions on them. We're trying to lift it and lift some of those restrictions, and this is the reason for the sign, why this is coming to light now. So I'm just trying to change that perception that we're, right now there's a lot of restrictions on things. So right now we're trying to adjust it and change it so we can be more business friendly. That's one thing. And the tax reassessments, there's going to be another meeting that we're going to have on the tax reassessment program, but it is not going to be another demonstration. It's going to be more of a QA. We're going to be closely one-on-one with the people. My goal and my responsibility is to make sure that we look at the good, the bad, and the ugly of the tax reassessments. I've made no position on it. Like I said, I know what I ran on, but again, we're going to have another meeting, and again, with the tax assessor, and we're going to have that Q&A. It's not going to be another, slideshow and presentation. So it's again, to bring the good and the bad and ugly to people, and looking to hear their feedback and concerns, and we can address them, basically almost one-on-one. So, thank you. That's all. I just wanted to add a little to that. So,
Is anyone else wishing to come forward? If not, I'll ask for a motion to close the meeting to the public. Moved by Mr. Sparta. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bucieri. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. May I have council comments? Mr. Higgins.
Yes, just one question from last meeting to Tina and Danelle. There was a large understanding and a description of the new IT system, the phones, and all the networking, and the question was remaining, are you leasing it or are you purchasing it? That was to be looked into for tonight's meeting. Do you have an answer to that?
So the phones are for the term of our contract. At the end of the contract, we would have to go back out to bid for a new company. So if the company stays, the phones would stay. If we went to a different company, then we would get all new phones again.
So you're leasing it then?
Yeah.
Okay, just be aware that...
We're going to be charged a monthly payment, which is going to be the use of the phones. So it's going to be like a phone bill. Yeah, right,
Right. So at the end of that term, they own it.
Right.
And you have to decide then to replace it. You can't just keep the equipment and get a new
No.
provider. So you're leasing the equipment. Okay,
Right.
that's the answer. Thank you.
And, yeah, and we would have to go out anyway because of the contract term stipulations, right, for public contracts. So we would have to go out anyway.
Okay, thanks. That was it for me, Mr. Rizzuto.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins.
Yeah, you mentioned the, I guess it's the tax assessor is going to do a Q&A on somebody. Okay. Is that going to be during a council meeting?
No, I
It
have
would
a-
be good if we could do something during a council meeting, because that's when everybody's here, and I know it's going to be a hell of a meeting,
Well,
but,
we'll schedule, like last time,
separate-
I scheduled it, I didn't schedule it for like noon time. I did have it at evening.
could we get them at a council meeting? I just feel like that's when
That's-
everybody's already here.
That's not really council business.
The tax
No,
assessments?
no. You wouldn't,
If we have to vote on them again, it would be though, right?
that's
So
how we
it-
would get our information. It's contracts and stuff. No,
Okay.
but doing,
I just feel like nobody shows up to these additional meetings, and then they come to the council meetings and ask.
We had people show, but we
You
give
did?
it, we do
Okay.
give some advance notice, and, again, it's something that I took the initiative on to try to,
Yeah, not nobody.
get
but-
that out there, so, and
Okay.
we'll have it in the evening on a specific day.
All right, I did have something else, but I sidetracked myself with that, so that's it for me.
okay. Mr. Sparta?
I have two comments. One, or both of them pertain to the county. I hope the mayor can help out with this. We had another truck lose its brakes on 515 the other day. So there's plenty of signs on that road that says it's prohibited. There's a rumor out there that the county never passed an ordinance to enforce that or whatever. Could we have some sort of clarification as to what's going on with that? I mean, luckily the driver used his head and went off the road before breakneck, before he came down to the bottom of the hill where the stoplight is, where there's just cars stacked up just waiting to get run over. So that's number one. The other one was about a year and a half ago, I brought up about the intersection on 517 and Vernon Crossing roads and the dangerous accidents that happen there constantly. I think even the chief was at that meeting. I kind of asked him to ask around for the county if they could do another traffic study there, if there's another way that traffic could be handled in a different manner where we don't have these accidents. I think it was January of 22 is when I brought it up, January of 23, I'm sorry. And I think in the first week of January, there's 4 accidents there.
I'm sorry, it's 517 and where?
517 and Vernon Crossing
Vernon
by
Crossing
Glenwood.
Road by the Glenwood.
All right, there was another accident there earlier this week. And not for nothing, my daughter was involved in an accident there 4 years ago, so,
Yeah.
I think that's something that needs to be looked at.
Mm-hmm.
I know the chief had, because when I brought it up, I know the chief had his ideas as to what was occurring there, and whether it's accurate or not is another thing, but.
Yeah, I think, right, it's important that we do these studies, and I think we just, for example, right out here, we just did a traffic study, because we've had several employees almost get hit by cars that came through here, so we were looking at some kind of speed bump, and I think, what was the number, how many cars was it? Like
15,000.
In a day, right? It was 15,000
Yeah.
cars,
What? Where?
right in front
Right
of...
out front.
Right up
On
front.
Church Street?
Yes.
Yeah, were you driving back and forth?
Are you, yeah, is somebody just
AI.
driving back and forth all day?
This is what was
It's you
reported
guys
back
driving
to
back
us.
and forth all day.
So,
That's what I did all day.
That's crazy, 15.
I mean, I know, not for nothing, I come home 5:15 every day. I followed log trucks down the hill, I followed tractor trailers down the hill, I've called the police department on the way to ask them to send somebody out to please get this person turned around. That never seems to happen. So something has to be done. Somebody, back in '94, a lot of casualties happened in that bus accident. It's going to happen again if we don't do something about that. And also, I think Hardison has to be involved in it as well. The Hardison Police Department sits at the end of the exit on 23, getting people for rolling through the stop sign, and they sit by the old municipal building across from the Methodist Church almost daily. And they see these trucks going by, and they don't do anything for them either. So we need to get the county involved. We need to get Hardison on board before a tragedy happens here.
And barring that, if we can't get them on, we need to know why.
Right.
So we can make it, we can go after that, because, you know, I sympathize with Mr. Sparta. I remember going up and down myself when I was working, but now I don't, and I don't see it, but I know it's happening. My question is there a reason why our local police, are they prohibited from giving any type of
That's what I've been
sanctions?
told.
Because it's a county road, because
No.
of the signage or something like that?
No, they could still issue summons. It's still within our township. And I believe we do have areas where they do traffic patrol. I don't exactly, I forgot the exact term they use, traffic enforcement, or I just, I don't think it's a 24/7 thing, but I think, but and I'm sure he'll probably call me tomorrow and discuss this, so
Okay.
I will make mention to him about the situation.
One more comment about 515 as well, and I called you about it on the way home one night, about the political sign that was on the top of the mountain. It has been removed. It was removed last Thursday or Friday. I don't know if it was our
It was, yeah.
enforcement that did it or not, but, those, I know everybody that runs for council or school board or anything else, they adhere by the 30-day notice, and I don't care if you're running for Congress or Senate or whoever, you abide by it as well.
Some conflicting information was given to our zoning officer, and, certain things about political signs being on state property. But ultimately, after further research, ultimately, the municipality has the final say on sign ordinance, on sign ordinance and when they should be put out there and enforced. So we did take action and did remove it, so.
And whoever put the sign next to it said, "Rules for me and not for thee." I appreciate that.
Oh, that's funny, I didn't know that.
Yep.
I never go that way.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you.
That's enough.
No comment.
I do have a comment. Mayor and I will be meeting with a group of concerned members of various townships with regards to the JCP&L situation with the high costs. My compliments to the office for Mike and Ganamort for his getting involved, and his staff for jumping on the accelerator on this and getting it going. And it's going to take place early in October, and we'll see what we can do. It'll be brought back.
Yeah, I raised that concern. I had a mayor's meeting on Saturday, so I raised that, and there was other municipalities that weighed in on it too. So they were pretty upset, especially with triple, quadruple in the electrical costs. I mean, it's been through the roof. So it's October 3rd. We're having that meeting. So looking forward to that one.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Moved by
Second.
Mr. Sparta. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bucieri. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.
Wait, how are trucks supposed to get? Sorry, not even 8:45.
Chief is not there.